𝗂𝗏 and welcome. Today I'm in conversation with Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗂 𝗣𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗶𝗺, who is the newly appointed German ambassador to Bhutan. Dr. 𝗕𝗵's visit to Bhutan is of a very important significance. Why? Because Germany currently is helping Bhutan with the restoration of the famously known 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗶𝗀𝗀 𝗂𝗏 house, which is a historical treasure that has withstood the passage of time. However, the house remains cracked and on the verge of collapse. And Dr. 𝗣𝗵𝗶 here recently visited Punakha to visit the site. So in this conversation, we will talk about Dr. 𝗣𝗵𝗶 himself. We will talk about his visit to Bhutan, and we will also talk about how Germany is helping with the restoration of 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗶𝗀𝗀 𝗂𝗏 house. Dr. 𝗕𝗵, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
Right. Now, is this your first time visiting our country, Bhutan?
It is the first time as an ambassador, but I have to admit that 17 years ago, when I had a previous stint at the German embassy in Delhi, I was 3 times in Bhutan, 2008, 2009 and 2010. So it's quite a long time ago, and I've seen the change also in Bhutan, but I'm not a complete newcomer to Bhutan.
Mm-hmm. So if you could also elaborate your purpose of visit this time. This is your 4th.
So this time the purpose of the visit was that I presented my credentials to His Majesty the King. That was the centerpiece of this trip. But once you go to Bhutan, you of course try to assemble a couple of interactions, meetings, visits, and I think so far we have had fantastic opportunities to meet interesting people, to interact with dignitaries, see our projects, and it was a very, very good trip so far.
Right, and for that credential that you received, I want to congratulate you.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. I must say the ceremony at the Dzong was one of its kind. It's fabulous. It's something you'll never forget.
Right. So how was your impression of Bhutan? Because I know that it's your 4th time in Bhutan, and you have seen Bhutan in previous years. But as an ambassador, you are here, and then how has Bhutan changed over the years?
The first thing that comes to mind is how big Thimphu has become. The city has been growing big time, and you see when you come from Paro, you see that building is very strong, and you see everywhere new houses, and the city has become more urban, I would say. At the same time, you feel that Bhutan has opened up more than it used to, so there is more international interaction. Now Bhutan has more diplomatic relations also, including Germany. Germany has diplomatic relations only since 3 years, but when I was here, I think Bhutan had relations with 20 countries, and now it's almost 60. So you see there is a sort of a modernization underway, which is very good and very...
Now, Doctor, within those, if you could also highlight a little briefly on the relation between Germany and Bhutan. We know for the fact that it started from 2020. Now, within those years, what were some of the initiatives, and what were done?
So I must say that our relations go way back. It's not only since 2020. We have had relations for decades actually. I know that GTZ, now GIZ, the German Technical Implementation Agency, has been here building up centers for technical skill training in the 70s. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the current PM even worked in the context of this project. And these centers still exist. We have had a lot of German engagement, be that government-wise, be that NGO-wise, through the decades. You might have heard of 𝗵𝗶 Bhutan, which is a German NGO partly funded by the German government, who built hospitals and schools in Bhutan. So I think we go back a long time, but the diplomatic relations, of course, it is expected that things get a boost through this step, and this is a new dimension, and we have to see that we can do something with it. So what happened in the last 3 years, I think which is very, very important, is we had set up 2 big projects with the Royal Society of the Protection of Nature, and one and the other one with the WWF on living landscapes and on basically it's interesting because it's this white-bellied heron preservation area, but that sounds so like a niche. It is much more than that. It is trying to develop rural settlements in a way that people increase their income and at the same time preserve the natural environment in which the white-bellied heron can flourish. And I think this is very Bhutanese, trying to protect the nature as much as one can, developing in a very gentle and organic way the settlements. And this living landscapes project we do with the Royal Society is very, very similar. It's a very beautiful project that brings water to villages without disturbing nature too much. And these are projects in a range of about 10 million euros. It's quite an important amount of money, and they stretch over a long time. And this is, I think, where I see the future of the German-Bhutanese relations, is trying to, this very special thing about Bhutan, that you preserve the nature, that you are so much in harmony with the environment, can be supported in a time where climate change and destruction of nature is such an urgent issue. And Bhutan is a wonderful example how you can live nicely without destroying your environment.
That's nice to hear. Now, Doctor, prior to taking this position as an ambassador to, what did you do?
In life, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, generally, what work you
so
did.
I before coming here, I had a very tough 6 years in Berlin, and I was the Director General for a political department in the Foreign Ministry that covered basically the global South, let's say, Africa and Latin America and the Middle East, and I basically dealt with a lot of crises then. But 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago in 2022, in summer 22, the government decided to send me as an ambassador to India. I think it was a very nice reward I got for this.
Is there any cultural relevance between Germany and Bhutan? I mean, do you have been to Bhutan? This is your 4th...
Yeah, what I think, it's a very good question, because I mean, of course, culturally it's very different, and when you sit in the big audience hall and you listen to the state monks and all the ceremony, you feel it is wonderful, but it's very far away from what we are. But at the same time, there is something I find maybe there is a similarity. This is how you look at the nature, how you walk through the forest, and how you appreciate a bit what nature can offer you. And that's also in Germany very widespread. The Germans have a thing with forests. I don't know why, but they love forests. And when I go through the forests here in Bhutan, I feel it resonates with me, and then I think that's very German also. So, and this sort of the organic idea of protecting nature or something that resonates in Germany too. So I think there is a similarity also. Yeah.
So, Doctor, now recently I've been to 𝗂𝗏𝗃, and then we were together there, and then you visited 𝗕𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃 house. Now, for that, on behalf of every individual Bhutanese and on behalf of especially the local community in 𝗂𝗏𝗃, we would like to thank you and Germany for supporting Bhutan. Now, you have been there. What is your impression of that structure?
So 𝗂𝗏𝗃 is of course a completely different world. When you come from Thimphu, you go down and the vegetation is different and the climate is milder, and it's very, very interesting to see how different Bhutan also can be in a short distance only. So we saw the dzong, which is one of the most wonderful dzongs in Bhutan. And then we saw the little Galson's house. It's a small house, it's not a big house, but it's a beautiful house, it's a traditional house. Structure is in a very bad shape, I think there is no doubt. It's a bit of it will be quite a work to restore it. But when we heard about the story, when we heard about that basically every Bhutanese knows the story of the Bhutanese Romeo and Juliet saga, so to speak, I think it was a very wise decision to say, let's go for it. I'm very happy that we do it, and whenever I talk about it, everybody, has lightens up and has an association with what happens in 𝗗𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗽𝗃 and what the saga of 𝗗𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗃 and 𝗗𝗵𝗂 contain. So it's
right. Doctor, like you said, it's a very small house, yet it deems, it's a very important historic structure for every Bhutanese. Now, is there any specific reason as to why Germany wants to, help with the restoration?
We have an old tradition of working together with Bhutan in the cultural context. So yesterday I saw the National Library where we had financed this very nice exhibit, on how, the Bhutanese tradition of writing and printing came along. We have financed, as you might recall, the cantilever bridge for the 𝗵𝗂𝗏𝗃 song, and that we did with Pro-Bhutan, this very, very nice and very, very committed organization of a retired German diplomat who is basically our main implementer here in Bhutan, and we are very happy to work with him. In this context, this 𝗗𝗵𝗃𝗃 was a logical step in a way. When we came to know that this is that the house is in such a bad shape that the house needs urgent restoration, we felt it's a good project to look after. And I think the plans were very convincing, and we are very much looking forward to seeing it rebuilt very soon.
Right, Doctor. Now, if you could, Doctor, could elaborate on the funding that's being used to restore 𝗗𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 house.
So the core funding comes from the German federal government. It's by far the biggest of the lump sum is from German government. But Pro-Bhutan, the organization that looks after the restoration, our partner here, they also have quite a bunch of euros or dollars added to the sum, so that we have a very good, I think, relatively comfortable amount of money to restore. And I talked, remember we were there, I talked to the chief engineer, and I felt that, the plans were made very thoroughly and that we can start very quickly. And I think the project that the house will become a museum with a garden and a cafeteria, and this adds to the tourism, the increasing tourism, which is also necessary in 𝗵𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗃. So I'm very happy that we are there.
Doctor, now aside from the funding, how is Germany planning to get involved with the restoration process?
So as I said, we had this conversation before, but I say we have an implementer. The implementer is a very trustworthy implementer, that's Pro-Bhutan. We will every now and then come and look at how the situation is, and we will follow very thoroughly the restoration.
Now, is there, because what I as an individual think is, when Germany is getting involved in the restoration process, of course the funding is one part of the whole process. Now, what I also believe is that, this 𝗗𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 house is all cracked and, is on the verge of collapse. So perhaps Germany is also helping with the technology and everything. So is there those kind of a situation?
Yeah, my feeling was that the chief engineer was very comfortable with the situation as it is. He says that the restoration can be done under current circumstances. If problems arise, we will see what we can do.
Mm-hmm. So which means this will involve all the local craftsmen and artisans.
For us, it's very important that the restoration is done by Bhutanese, not by Germans. This must be a Bhutanese project with German money, but you are experts in preserving the national heritage. You can do that very well. I think that Bhutan has a fabulous experience. So I'm completely, I believe in the capacity of the Bhutanese restoration people and skills.
Okay, so Doctor, now going forward, what are some of the plans that, what collaboration is there between Germany and Bhutan going forward? What are we looking forward to?
So I think what we should look to is how to link up business better. Yeah. I just talked to a German businessman living in Bhutan who has set up a joint venture with a German big German company on medicinal plants. I think that's an option we should explore, how we can sort of bring German business better to Bhutan. Then I think we should continue our work on the climate change chapter with these big projects I just mentioned at the beginning. We should also think of people-to-people contact more in the cultural field. We send an author to the Bhutanese Literature Festival. We might continue to do so. We will certainly try to improve or to continue our work in the cultural sector and generally. And then I think Germany and Bhutan will also, compare notes on international matters now that we have diplomatic relations. Maybe in the context of the United Nations, where we both are members, but also in regular bilateral visits. I think there is still a lot of room for improvement. There is a big high potential, but I think we should not, think only of government to government. We should think in a wider perspective also, people to people, business to business.
Doctor. Now, Doctor, you said earlier, that Bhutan made a good impression on you. Now, going back, what is that one thing that you're going to talk about to your friends and family and brag about it? Like, I did this in Bhutan.
So bragging. So I loved the Tiger's Nest trek. I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. That's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The ceremony is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. There is so much to discover, and I would like to go to Bumthang at some stage also. And I feel that my theory is that once you get to know Bhutan a bit, you automatically fall in love with it. But you need to get to know Bhutan, and I think there is not enough people who know about this country. And that's also maybe a task what we have to do, is trying to get in Germany more people interested in Bhutan and increase the number of tourists, let's say. And it's not good enough. The German tourists are everywhere. When I see that it's only 1,000 to 2,000 German tourists a year, it's ridiculous. It should be much higher. So there's a lot of stories. There's a lot to tell about Bhutan. But you need to get the country known worldwide.
And I hope that you visit Bhutan again, Doctor.
Yes.
Now, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful talking to you. As we talked about earlier, how Germany is helping with the restoration of 𝗗𝗏𝗄𝗃 House. And 𝗗𝗏𝗃 House has evidently withstood the test of time. We hope that the relation between Germany and Bhutan also withstand the test of time and the relation remains strong and long, Doctor. Thank you again.